Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, and welcome to another episode of WCM's Outdoor Hospitality Update. I'm editor of Woodall's Campground magazine, and my co-host Mike Gast is not here. He has been in Hawaii the last few years, and he was making it back to the mainland. And I believe he had mentioned he was going to be on the show with me, but he may be having some connection issues. I know they're traveling. Him and his wife are traveling to visit family members. So if he joins us, I guess he'll join us. And if he doesn't, I guess we'll just plod along without him. But my guest today is Bobby Cornwell, Executive Director, President, CEO. I don't know, all three of those things, I guess, of the Florida and Alabama RV Park and Campground Associations. And it's great to have you on. I guess my first question is, and I get a little bit confused because sometimes I see it labeled as Florida and Alabama RV Park.
You were going to do that introduction. You nailed it. You got it right. But
yeah. So, but it's two separate associations, right? You guys just kind of partner on resources.
That's correct. Yeah, we're two separate, but in the same. We're all together. We have one board of directors, or under the same umbrella, but we operate independently when we need to operate independently, and together when it serves us to operate together. So we go by both.
So, I guess, when did that partnership form? How long has that partnership been in existence?
Gosh, it's probably been going on 16 years now, I would think. Yeah, right around 16 years. It's been a while. It started with the Florida Campground Association, Inc. back in 1966 is when the Florida Association was first incorporated. So coming up to 55, 56 years for our main association, and then we brought on Alabama about 16 or so years ago.
Okay. So I guess just to get some background, I guess I would imagine Florida is the larger association. I guess how many members does each association have? I don't need an exact number.
That's okay. No, if I can give you the total exact, it fluctuates slightly, but we're right around 400 for Florida and about 50 for Alabama.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, you got quite a few campground members there and probably quite a few supplier members as well. So, partners.
We have 80 supplier members right now.
Yeah. So, and you guys are getting ready for your conference, which I know is a joint conference. You guys are hosting it in Daytona Beach, which I was just in the end of February, beginning of March for the Mid-Atlantic Conference.
Right.
And it was a little cooler in Orlando, but my wife and I, we went to Daytona Beach, and that's just a great area to visit. I guess just kind of give us a little bit of information on what to expect with that conference.
Sure. Yeah, that's coming up June 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we're about 2 weeks out, a little less. We are in Daytona Beach at the Shores Resort and Spa. It's South Daytona area. We've been there twice now. This will be our third year and probably our last. It's because we've outgrown it. We're going to have about 70 vendors, which more than took over the trade show space, and about 160, 170 campground registrations. So it's going to be over about 330 people is what we're estimating, and that's a little tight for this hotel. But it's a great location, beautiful resort, and right there on the ocean. So anyway, it's going to be a good time. We have 3 days. 6 just kind of kicks it off with a welcome reception. The 7th is our full day where we have legislative topics, 4 or 5 speakers, some open discussions, a big dinner event that night where we honor all the attendees and the sponsors and the exhibitors. And then the next day we have our trade show running most of the day. And then we have bookends on that, a couple of speakers and some discussions. So anyway, it's pretty much just 2 full days of lots of fun and entertainment and good seminars. A lot of networking.
I can't remember. I'm getting older, so I forget a lot of things. But did you guys host an event last year? Did you do something in the fall?
No, it's always in May, either May or June. Typically May. We are in June this year, but normally it's beginning in May. We have regional meetings occasionally, but I don't recall a fall one.
Did you host the spring one last year, or did you skip it?
No, we had it. Yeah.
You
we
had
did.
it last year.
For-
Okay. All right. Okay.
Let's get
And-
2020.
Okay, you skipped 2020. All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's great that you guys are growing so much. You got to get a new venue, I guess. Any thoughts on where the new venue might be? Are you guys going to go to like Disney World or something?
Yeah, pretty much. We were in Orlando the past 2 years, and we're probably going back.
Okay.
The majority of the larger hotels are, of course. So we'll probably be in Orlando next year.
Okay. All right. I guess what you mentioned all the education that's going on, and obviously the legislative stuff's probably pretty popular. I guess what is something you're really excited about on the conference side? I mean, besides getting to see all the park owners.
Right. Well, you mentioned legislative, and that's usually, the association does many things like all the associations do, but besides the marketing and the PR and all that, our relevancy, we believe, is our legislation and our legal efforts. So, that's something we always highlight at our conference. We have our lobbyist, very well-known lobbyist in Tallahassee, Mark Dunbar. Great lobbyist, represent us very well. We have a legal counsel as well, David Eastman, and they will be there with a 2-hour session talking about what's going on legislatively and any kind of legal issues that are affecting the parks in Florida or Alabama. And we also have a new lobbyist in Alabama that we're bringing on. We're strong in that area, and happy that we've been able to have a positive impact on legislation over the past few years in both states. So we'll be highlighting that, of course.
Yeah.
And we'll have a representative or two from the state of Florida there as well to speak and to thank our members. We've have a pretty powerful pack, and so we've been helpful in getting some pro RV type candidates elected. So we're always proud of that as well.
I imagine it's important somewhat to host the conference in at least the northern half of Florida, to allow some of those Alabama people to come down, because it is a long state.
Yes.
But I guess, how many Alabama people come to the conference? Is there quite a good showing?
Percentage-wise, it is, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's a little smaller of the group. We have like 50 parks, but we usually have at least 10 or so parks that show up. So, percentage-wise, it's a pretty good number. And it is a drive. So, we try to hold it not too far south from Florida, so it's not, it's still driving distance. But we do have some that fly as well. But yeah, we have probably about 10 parks that register right now from Alabama coming. So it's a good representation. We also have a couple parks from Georgia and South Carolina and some other parts of the state, or nation rather, coming as well. So kind of broadening outside of our state regions, if you will.
Yeah, I hope there's nobody from Alabama on this show, but I would just host it in Key West.
No, it's not far, but that's got a little cost prohibitive these days too.
Yeah.
Beautiful country there.
Yeah.
Legislatively, you mentioned, and I don't want to pass over, but the main thing we're focusing on right now, at least for the session coming up in 2023, is just like so many other states, we're going to be passing or trying to pass an inherent risk campground immunity law.
Yeah.
So that's going pretty smoothly. We have the bill drafted. We already have our sponsors in place. So that's one thing we're going to be pushing for this year, legislatively and legally. And that's been one of the main issues that our campground owners have faced. And that's part of that is rising insurance costs, which I guess campground owners throughout the nation are getting hit by. But in Florida, it's been pretty drastic. Some people have seen a 5 or 6 times rate increase over previous years. So we're looking at that, seeing how we can chip away at that, and anything we can do to help that is one of our primary goals for the next year or two. So,
why has it been so high? What are you hearing from the insurance professionals, I guess, on why it's been so high?
A lot of it is some of the major insurance companies are just not necessarily pulling out; they're cutting back significantly in Florida, so they're writing less policies. And then you got the trial lawyers, the whole slip and fall cases. I mean, it's just causing expenses to go through the roof, if you will. And a lot of those claims are not always justified. So we're going to try to shine some light on that, and hopefully this immunity law will maybe help that a little bit. But our insurance partners have been helpful in finding policies for people. It's been difficult. It's not as easy as it was. It's requiring a lot of work, but through the main insurance professionals that we all work with through the industry. I'm not going to name them all, but we all know who they are. They've been very helpful, and have found companies that are willing to come in where others may be pulling out. So it's not like the sky is falling or anything, but it's just requires a little more work on the insurance side than it used to.
Have you heard from the insurance agencies, professionals, as to what the inherent risk stuff would do in your state? Like, would it have an immediate impact, or would it?
Yeah, we've tried to get some feedback, and they've been very helpful. It's all viewed as positive. It's a step in the right direction, and every little bit helps. I wish I could say we get past that, and there'd be no more rate problems, but it doesn't quite work that way. So, but anything that we or any state can do to lower the risk of the park operator, then the insurance companies look at that as, being a more favorable risk, if you will, to get into the industry. So, it's just one piece of the puzzle. But yeah, it definitely can't hurt. That's for sure.
What has COVID or your hurricane risk or natural disasters had any impact that you've heard? Or there's not really a lot you can do about that stuff, I guess.
No, there isn't. Knock on wood. We haven't had any major hurricanes at least the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's great.
That hasn't added to the problem. But yeah, that's always a potential, of course. But no, we've been very lucky lately with the hurricane situation. COVID, I don't think that really added to it. I mean, that caused the whole world to kind of go into chaos. So that might be part of the problem, but it's not directly related to COVID, I don't believe. Of course, everybody can blame COVID on everything, right? But I don't see that being necessarily a factor. We were very fortunate during that time too, and this is all old news by now, but our parks were able to stay open, so we were very thankful of that, and we fought hard for that. But they've had an amazing. The parks have had an amazing couple of years, 2022, 21, 20, but. Yep. Groundbreaking years, record-breaking years.
So, speaking of COVID, I guess, Florida has been in the news quite a bit because of the response to Florida. They stayed pretty open during the whole pandemic thing. And there were definitely other states that stayed pretty closed for a while. I guess, how did that work out for the campground and RV park sector in Florida? It seemed like, it kind of started a boom, I guess.
Well, it definitely did. So, I got to applaud our Governor DeSantis for, staying strong for businesses and for tourism and allowing parks and businesses to stay open and welcoming visitors to our state. It definitely turned out well for Florida. And I think most of the business owners throughout the state, they've had record-breaking years, like I just said, probably up 20-30%, over pre-COVID levels. Reservations are fantastic. Some parks are booking into 2023, 24 even right now. So we're seeing reservations way ahead of schedule compared to years past. Rates are way up. So that's a good thing. And the parks are doing great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's great.
So, it's all a sign that, that of course Florida's been in the news a lot, but due to our climate and our pro-business political environment, it's definitely helped. Can't deny it.
Yeah, and then obviously you guys, they just passed a House bill, which delivers. I guess, how does that $1.1 billion in tax savings help parks? I guess I know you guys had
the tax cuts and the tax breaks. A lot of that sales tax. I mean, hopefully it'll help the individual out there who's camping. They'll save money here or there and hopefully invest it into more vacation dollars and more stays at our parks. I'm not sure specifically what tax breaks you're talking about, but I know there were a lot that were just passed by the governor.
Yeah.
Tax holidays, as they're calling it.
Yeah.
So some of that trickles down and some camping supplies, et cetera. So, we're all hoping it's just one of those pieces of the puzzle again that will hopefully add to more business for our park owners.
Yeah, I mean, I think it mentioned long and short-term sales tax relief, 2-year process, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that has to trickle down somewhat, you would imagine. So it's always great to see tax cuts and not new taxes.
Exactly.
So I think Rick Kessler had a question. Curious how active the park campground market is for buyers, sellers in your states, I guess, Alabama and Florida. And are you seeing a lot more corporate owned properties? I know Florida, every time I look, it seems like they have a lot of corporate owned properties, but there's some private ones too, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. But yes, Rick, you've perfect question, because that's what we're seeing. Last couple of years, we've been seeing it, but more so than ever now. So yes, of course, you have your big corporate parks, Sun and ELS, Encore Equity. They together the two of them probably have about 150 parks in the state. So that's a big portion of it right there. And we have, at least as far as our association goes, membership wise, I would say at least a third of our parks, if not more, are multi-owned corporate type parks.
Yeah.
And that's growing. So yeah, we're definitely seeing a turnover from the family-owned businesses to more corporate. And as far as sales, yes, it's skyrocketed. I mean, the parks prices, I think, kind of slowed it down a little bit because the prices are starting to get out of line. But we've seen, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 parks being bought and sold and developed in the past year. And a lot of that, most of that is corporate money. So, but there are some private individuals too. We're seeing a lot of one park owners trying to do 2 park owners, 3 park owners. So we're seeing that growth. But yeah, it's the day of just a single park owner is not dying at all, but it's definitely, you're seeing more of a shift toward the multi parks and corporate ownership.
What's the development? I know when we look at developments all across the country, and there definitely has been issues with local officials, getting the permits, everything. What's the development atmosphere like in Florida and Alabama? Are they pretty receptive to RV parks and campgrounds? Are there certain areas where it can be a little more difficult?
In certain areas, it's county by county. As a state, yes, we're pro development, pro RV park, and definitely Alabama is too. I think Alabama, you have a better chance of getting something built and developed quickly, more so than Florida. But it all depends on the region, like you said, and also the county. So it's a county by county issue. Farther down south in Florida, you'll have more of a problem, most likely. A little more hurdles to jump over than you would in the rural areas of Florida. Northern Florida is typically easier. We've seen a lot of growth and development, Central Florida, North Florida, around the Ocala area, Gainesville area, a lot of activity there. And then Alabama, the majority of parks in Alabama are along the Gulf Coast, Baldwin County, Mobile, Foley, that area there, South Alabama. But, they're growing elsewhere too. So we see Central Alabama, Northern Alabama also, new parks being built. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a county by county. Some counties are extremely RV friendly; they love us, which is wonderful. And other counties, it's a battle, and that's where we come into play a lot too, is helping those developers and private individuals who are either trying to build, or even a park owner who is just trying to add sites. Sometimes they can find that very difficult to get past. So it's always a battle, and it's one of those things too that was a continuing education of what the industry is all about, how RV parks can benefit a community, and it's not necessarily something that's going to take away from it. It's the opposite. So we always try to push that message.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like Mike's here. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hi,
Mike.
Bobby, Ben.
Hi,
Mike. Where are you at, Mike?
I am finally standing in Billings, Montana, after a long, arduous trip back to the mainland. Now I know why I don't live here anymore.
Quite a difference from Hawaii to Montana, that's for sure.
Oh, it's like time travel. It's very strange.
Well, we were just talking about developments, and Bobby was talking a little bit about the development market, how it depends on the county, how easy it is to build or add on to a park, different things. I guess, Bobby, what has the rising costs of things, general just construction items and everything done to the market? Has it slowed it down at all? Do developers think twice about how large they're going to build these parks, or are they just going full force no matter what the price is, I guess?
I'm sure it has some effect. I don't have the exact figures or numbers on how much it slowed it down, but I think it definitely probably is a factor that park owners really didn't have to consider in the past. But I think more so, at least in Florida, it's land acquisition and getting the approval. So I mean that's half the battle right there. Once you get that, I think the cost of actually developing the park. That's probably easy. It's downhill from actually getting approval. And there's not a whole lot of construction expenses really as far as materials go. We're fortunate there. I think that's kind of kept to a minimum. So no, I really haven't heard that being a barrier. Though I'm sure it's definitely a factor.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I guess
the supply issue. That's one thing I think that probably is slowing down developing. It's getting the materials, that type of thing.
Alex Burkett asked, "What's the long-term impact of COVID-19 on parks in Florida and Alabama, and what are the biggest needs of park owners?" Boy, that's two big questions, I guess.
Yeah, the COVID one is easy. Of course, COVID was horrible, and I don't want to make it sound like it wasn't. Yeah. But it's from a business perspective. I think many of us in the industry nationwide would agree that because of our unique position in the industry, being outdoors, et cetera, that we fared fairly well compared to other tourism-related industries, hotels, et cetera. So the lasting impact, we had a positive impact, to be honest. So is that going to continue? We saw great growth the last couple of years. We'll be able to continue that is questionable. We're hoping it will. We don't really see any signs of it slowing down right now, but we're not totally unrealistic. We realize that's a potential, but right now it's all been positive. So we're riding that wave as long as we can. The other part of the question, what do they need? I think the biggest challenge that our industry faces, and I don't think it's just in Florida, but it's kind of back to the developing and the approval process and just having a pro RV park and RV image. I think we need government officials, other business industries and tourism agencies realizing the value that we have to bring and that park owners have to offer and that RV parks are in general. We were fortunate with COVID, I think, too. We got a lot of positive recognition. A great way to travel, a safe way to travel. So that was a great step in the right direction. So I'd say we need to build on that. And it's I think our only constraints are pretty much what government or local building departments put on us as far as growth because the demand is there and we have the campers. And hopefully that will continue. And we want to just have a government that allows us to operate and grow as we wish and as we need to do. And a lot of that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I know that in my previous life, we always considered the existing campers we had as our best ambassadors. Do you think the industries, especially in Florida, is missing the point a little bit with all these new campers that are coming in? Are we making them into ambassadors right off the bat? Do they know enough about the lifestyle quick enough to really be true ambassadors out there and either keep going themselves or bring other people in?
I'm not sure, but yeah, you're right. I mean, word of mouth is the best form of advertising, right? So, I think I've seen a little bit of both. A lot of the new RVers that have come into the industry, they love it. And of course, some, it's not what they expected. So you're getting some of that negative publicity out there. That could hurt, but hopefully it's not enough to change the perception out there. But yeah, I see your point. It's a good question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that, but I think there are plenty. You got a lot of new RVers, but you have many of the diehards that have been doing it for a long time. They're still camping as well. So right now I'm seeing more positive PR than negative. Hopefully that'll continue.
What's the snowbird situation feel like going into next year? Are they up already?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say we're already filled up. That's not the case. Sometimes that perception gets out there. But yeah, I mean, there are many parks that literally they get booked a year in advance. So that's not the whole state at all, but you need to book early. That's the rule of thumb, and earlier than ever before. Yeah, because the demand is there. Snowbirds are coming down, more than ever. Even though we had the Canadian problem, if you will, that was made up by other domestic travelers coming from outside of the states and inside the state too, traveling during the winter months.
What about the mix? What about the mix on a new park? Is it I guess our business always was 80% RVs, 10% tents, 10% cabins. Now in Florida, especially, is it in the southern climes? Is it many more cabins and park models in the mix than it used to be? As far as are they kind of stealing from RVs a little bit on these new parks?
Yeah, a lot of them. That's a big part of the business model, is having the park model. So that's important for especially the corporate parks. They like to have a good supply of that, and yeah, the public demands it as well too. The campers are wanting them and using them. So as far as percentage wise, I think the park models maybe make up. I'd probably say 15%, 20%, if that. 15 probably more of the market than that. Very few tents in Florida, so it's mostly RV sites, and same with Alabama. You have some rusty parks that have tent camping, a little more so than Alabama than you will Florida. But the majority of it by far is RVs. And then, park models are definitely a good portion of that, and especially down south, lots of park models.
I know you have a robust development market in Florida, but you also have a lot of demand, and there's probably some overcrowding in some areas. Is the development market going to catch up and fix some of those issues, or I don't know. Is it working enough to fix some of the overcrowding issues that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you hear the stories out there, but we don't have enough supply to meet the demand. And at certain times of the year, that may be correct. During the snowbird season, as you pointed out, Mike, it's crowded. But that's South Florida, Central Florida. But that's not to say that there aren't sites available. And parks are being built and developed, and I think the private industry is doing a remarkable job of trying to keep up with the pace. Can we use more parks? Sure, but I don't see it as being an issue that is year long at least. Like I said, once again, certain times of the year, we're talking 2 or 3 months, it may be an issue. The rest of the time, it's not. During the summer, parks are 50% full. On a good day. So it all depends on the time of year. And then the region. I mean, there's different. Obviously, the south part of the states, both Florida and Alabama, are busier during the winter months. And then, during the summer months, you'll see the panhandle areas and the areas along the coast, the regular tourist areas, that they do well. But it fluctuates. It fluctuates.
There's Jason Gossett asked, Sun Communities, ELS, and others bring an audit compliance function to their ownership management. How do the associations and private companies do to address operational and financial risks? That sounds like a high-level business question.
It does, and I don't know if I'm capable of an answer. Honest with you. How do associations and private companies do to address operational and financial risks? Jason, I'm not sure exactly what that means, to be honest with you. I mean, it's something that they deal with internally. As far as an association, I mean, we try to provide, and this probably won't answer your question, but we try to provide whatever they may need and hopefully stay relevant with their operations. Sun and ELS are extremely important to our states. We have, 120, 130 members that are in those two companies alone. So, they're very valuable to us, obviously. They're a big part of the market. We provide services that we hope satisfy their needs, as well as, the smaller and private operator. I really don't get into the risk that they encounter. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine, good owners are going to have something in place to address like how much money they're making, the risks of adding different equipment and different things, stuff like that.
Yeah, I have had discussions with them internally and some of the operation VPs or whatever, and we've talked about insurance issues and supply issues, and I've kind of asked similar questions. How are you handling this? And the big corporations, they have it pretty much figured out. And because they have such a wide range of parks and the high number of parks, a price fluctuation can be spread across the whole infrastructure of the company. And they're smart people. They have it figured out. So that's above my pay grade.
Have you seen like hip camp, harvest toast sites popping up in Florida? What's that movement been like in your state, I guess?
Yeah, it's growing. We see it. Some of our members, we've had this discussion at some of our meetings and even on the board level of, what position should we take? Naturally, we think everybody should be camping in a private operated campground that is licensed. That's, an official business. So that's our stance. That's what we prefer. We understand some of the campers and RVers out there want the freedom to go where they want to go, when they want to go, and stay where they want to stay. So we get that. I don't think it's a huge threat to our private parks, but it can be an issue. And if it gets out of control, and I guess that's the main thing, if you have a winery or something like that, and they have a couple of RVers that stay there for the night, that's great. But when you get 20 or 30 rigs parked outside and they're staying for a week or two or a month, then, it's a whole different animal. So, that growth needs to be kept in check. Our state, at least in Florida, we have Department of Health, which regulates RV parks and campgrounds in Florida, the private parks and the public parks. And you have to be licensed through them. And they have special licensing agreements with special events that may pop up, fairs, that kind of festivals, that kind of thing. So a lot of these hip camps, they're not licensed. And, we're kind of watching it. And we're keeping in contact with the government officials, and some of it's a local thing and some of it's a state thing. And it's who's going to monitor it, who's going to police it. So, we're aware of it for sure. And we're kind of keeping it tight, as far as a close eye on it. And, if it becomes more of an issue than it should, then I think, we'll take more of a proactive stance possibly against it. But once again, there's got to be a compromise, I think. And, we're not wanting to shut down necessarily those type of facilities, but, they need to, if they're going to have people staying there and camping there long term, they need to become a licensed park. That's how we feel.
Yeah, definitely. It's just been kind of interesting to see how those different things pop up. There's a lot of different sites now where you can, where they list sites like that. So it's just been kind of interesting to see the development of that sector, I guess, of the industry. So,
and hopefully, our hope is that some of those campers will maybe start out there where they haven't camped before, and they'll migrate, to the RV parks and campgrounds, the private owned and licensed parks. So, hopefully you'll get some of that as well. But yeah, it's an interesting issue, and it's been, like you said, it's been interesting watching it grow. So we'll see.
Jason had another question. Have you seen any issues with renovated school buses being accepted on sites? I would imagine that's a campground by campground kind of thing.
It is, and it kind of, it's not totally segueing into the tiny home, but we just had a board discussion earlier about tiny homes and, what position are we going to continue to take on that? Because that's becoming more of an issue. So it's not totally related to school buses, but you're talking about something coming into the park that is not a RVIA sealed RV, right? So what do you do with it? Jason, it can be an issue. We don't see a whole lot of that, but we are seeing, vans, whether the vans are converted or school buses converted, people coming into the campground. And yeah, you're right. It's left up to the campground operator. Many of them take the position, well, if it doesn't have an RV seal on it, or is it not built to ANSI code, then we won't allow it. So, they always have that to fall back on if they want to. But I think it's kind of on an individual basis. If the bus or converted camper comes in and it looks like it's safe and in nice condition, then most parks will accept it, I think. That's a park by park basis. Yeah. And some counties may, try to have ordinances and police that effort as well, requiring parks to stay within a certain code or appearance that they're keeping up the park, by only allowing certain type of units. So, but yeah, usually it's either a local code or a campground type decision.
So any concern about what the state/Disney feud in our side of the business? Any concern about that?
I haven't heard of that. I mean, I've actually, Mike, I've wondered that myself. I haven't heard from any of our members whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or indifferent. And I think it's a non-issue. It's kind of fun to watch on the sidelines. Where it's going to go, I don't know, but that's been all over the news, hasn't it? I don't think it's going to affect our park owners, that's for sure. I think people are still going to camp, they're still going to come to Orlando, whether they're going to Disney or not. So I don't really think it's an issue.
I think one of the things I didn't realize about Orlando, because I've only been to Florida a couple of times and I had never been to Orlando. When I was down in March, I just didn't realize how much other stuff there was to do besides Disney World and Universal. You hear about Universal and Disney World all the time, but there's just so many other things to do too.
So there is, yeah, and that goes throughout the state. Disney gets the most publicity, of course, but yeah, I mean, we're going to be fine no matter what stance I think we take on Mickey. So there's plenty to do for everybody, and this will probably blow over. So it'll be old news in a year. So I don't think it's going to be anything long term.
Yeah. Yep. And
Disney's going to survive whether they have their own private authority or not. So they're not going to be hurting, I don't think.
I haven't been to their campgrounds yet, but I've heard some great things about like Fort Wilderness and some of the campgrounds that they own too at the parks. So.
Yeah, they're very nice. Booking way in advance, and there's other campgrounds, of course, in the area too. Private campgrounds that rely on that tourism business as well. So, but like you said, you got Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, and 500 other attractions in that area.
So, all right. I guess we were looking at the Campgrounds of America's North American Camping Report, and they talk about attrition, and I think Mike talked a little bit about this already, but how do you keep these new campers coming back? I mean, it seems like it could be a small issue of these first time campers trying it out and giving them that experience that wants them to come back, I guess, again and again.
Right. Our campground operators and owners, I think that they had that figured out. You provide a good camping experience. That's it. If they come down here and they're happy and they have a good time, the weather's great, that always helps, right? But if they have a good time, then they're going to come back. And, the parks that don't offer that great camping experience, they're not going to get the repeat customers. So, I think that kind of handles themselves. The business is great in Florida and Alabama, and I think everywhere in the nation. So I mean, we have a great product, right? I mean, everybody loves it. You get outdoors, you have a fun time, you get to relax. Great people. I think it kind of sells itself. But you got to have the good amenities. You got to have the nice park. You got to offer them what they need. And then you got to figure out that mix, what your customer wants.
It seems like campground management has evolved over the years, and it into more of a profession than it was just a lifestyle for the mom and pop owners. Do you think that's the trend now, that colleges will start having programs where people can actually get trained in this and other programs, especially in Florida?
Yeah,
it is a bit.
Yeah, you're seeing it for sure. I mean, hospitality, growth, and education, and I would love to have that developed where we have. And I think we're getting there. I mean, it might be years in the future before you have an actual college degree in campground management, right? But, I think the whole hospitality field is definitely continues to grow and is very important. And, we would love to see that. And I think we need more professional operators and, people that understand the industry and, attend our conferences and events and, have a educational network out there, which of course they do through national and all the states. So I think it's growing, and I think you can see more and more of that. And obviously with the corporates, like you mentioned, they have their own training courses, and once again, they know how to educate their employees, if you will. And ELS and Sun, they both put on great employee programs and conferences for their own employees. And, that's all about providing services and hopefully, providing the campers with what they need. So.
I know the RV Industry Association is taking more of an interest in the campground industry, and they just gathered some of the leaders from the outdoor hospitality industry a few months ago to talk about campground issues. Are you encouraged by that, and by everyone kind of pulling together to try to get some recognition and the initiatives through
Sure.
on a national scale, I guess?
Yeah, and you're talking about RVIA, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, they've they kind of reached out to us, and so let's work together. So I mean, of course, you're all for that. I think the more united we are, the better. So yeah, I think we definitely need to open those doors of communication, and anything that we can do to help them, and vice versa. That's great. We're obviously all in the same industry, so our park owners need to understand what the manufacturers are building, what their requirements are going to be. The RV side, they want their people to buy the RVs to have a great experience and have somewhere to camp, where they're going to want to go back and back and back and keep on camping and keep on driving that RV. So, it's hand in hand. We need each other. So we're all for the efforts that we can, establish and help build to create that communication and that bond where we work closer together. And it's been lacking in the past. So I think it's a worthy effort for sure. So.
Yeah. Is RV quality issues something that you hear from park owners and campers?
It is. It definitely is. I mean, we have campground owners who say they spend, a good hour or two every day helping, people in their park try to figure out a mechanical issue or push back their slide or whatever it may be. Something's broken down, electrical units have crashed, and breakers are flipping, and whatever. It could be a whole list of things, but no, it's definitely an issue. I think the RV industry is obviously aware of that, and our park owners are aware of it. And there's a lot of RV tech programs being developed. I just had a discussion yesterday with FARVC, which is the Florida RV Trade Association, which is the dealer network, and they have a whole new website that they're unveiling, which it pretty much ties in technical training and the campground and the RV dealers and manufacturing all together. And anyway, I think it's something we all need to be aware of. Obviously, we are, and to have some form of fixing the problem, if you will. So whether it's RV techs being on the campground properties or whatever, it's having a relationship with the mobile RV tech. That's part of the whole camping experience that, the camper almost expects and they need. Unfortunately, if a new RVer comes into your campground and it breaks down, well, who gets the brunt of that? It's the campground owner, right? They have that unhappy camper, and if that camper is unhappy, even if it's because of the unit, they're probably not going to come back to that campground. They might not ever camp again. But it goes hand in hand. So we have to have a role into that and to helping there with their problems too. So we're definitely aware of it, and it's definitely an issue.
Yeah, of course. In January at the Tampa RV show, they did quite a few electric RV concept reveals. I guess, how are your park owners taking this EV thing, and are they prepared for EVs?
We'll see. The majority probably are not at this time. I know that some are really being proactive and trying to get the charging stations in place and all of their hookups and sites ready for the huge influx, right, that we're going to be seeing. We don't know when that's going to take place, but yeah, it's coming, as we all say, and it will be here. I don't have a percentage of the parks that are ready right now to tackle that issue, but I think it's going to be a slow migration to it.
Yeah, the scary part too is that study that Thor released a couple of weeks ago, where it said the potential, the people that were thinking that someday in their lifetime at least they would own an electric vehicle or maybe an electric RV, their expectation was that they were going to have a charging station on the site. That it wasn't just going to be something in the parking lot over in the corner. And the folks that already owned an RV in that study said that that already owned an EV. expected to be able to charge at their site, even if that was a cabin, which is kind of unheard of. Who's gonna put a EV charging station on a cabin right now? I haven't even heard of that yet. So that's what the consumer says that they want.
Right.
And so I think the hill is high for the campground owners.
It is. So it's going to take a lot of education. We hope to have some role in that and connect them with the companies that can help facilitate that infrastructure change, right? And yeah, I mean, it's probably me here sooner than a lot of the park operators realize. So, the ones that are ready to embrace that and have the capability of handling, the EVs, whether it's just charging cars or the RVs, I think they're gonna be able to market themselves, a lot better than those that aren't.
Yeah. So
and then, once they start hitting the streets, other parks are gonna, they're gonna catch up real quick. It's just, if the equipment is available to put it in too, if there's not a backlog in that's gonna be part of the issue too. So.
Mm-hmm.
do you think the new developers, that have come into the sector, the new developments that are already preparing for the EVs, do you think that kind of puts pressure on owners too to kind of look at it?
I think it does. Most of the new parks that are being built, they're putting in place systems to incorporate that, or, already have it in place at the time they open the park. So, but with every new park that's built, I think it does put pressure on the existing parks to up their game as well. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, I mean, as far as parks revamping and keeping up with the times, that's all part of it. And if you don't, you get hurt. But I think that's a positive thing that, I think it's nationwide, but I know we've seen it in both Florida and Alabama where the parks are making upgrades in the facilities and amenities, and they're trying to keep up with it. And yeah, part of that's because of the pressure of the new parks and the corporate parks that maybe have the money to put into the facilities that they chose to do so. So competition's good. So I think it's gonna help everybody in the long run.
All right. Well, I think we drilled you with enough questions, unless Mike has anything else. But thanks for taking the time to come on here. Your conference is here coming up quickly. What are the dates again?
June 6th, 7th, and 8th.
And we just put the link to your conference for people who are interested in going or checking it out, or
rvparkconference.com. That's it.
Yep.
Easy to remember. So
Yep.
we appreciate it. The trade show is full, by the way. So unfortunately, no more vendors. We are sold out of exhibit space, which is a good thing, but we hate to turn anybody away. But we'd still love more campgrounds to come. So
just put them on the beach.
And there you go.
Just put them on the beach.
Right?
They won't mind. I saw Heidi. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I just said I think he's going to be busy. I think there's so much interest in people just kicking the tires to get into this business. Whether they're,
I mean, it's been exciting to see. I mean, there's more excitement than ever. It really is. So a lot of that's been since COVID. So I mean, it's crazy how everybody's kind of like rallied around together and celebrating the industry and the growth of the industry. And I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never seen so much excitement. And so it's a good thing. It's good for us. It's good for everybody.
Yeah, it's good for the industry, and hopefully the good times keep rolling, and hopefully the new developments and everything keep happening. Because I know we need more sites across the country, so hopefully we see more sites come in. So, but thanks, Bobby, for taking part in the show and for giving us an update on the conference and everything else. And thanks, Mike, for tuning in late from Billings.
From the wilds along the Yellowstone River. So there I am.
You're gonna
I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for watching. And we hope everyone has a great week. Next week on the show, we have Margaret Bailey from CMH Government Services, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the public park sector, the study with RVIA they just completed, and some of the new funding and everything that's going on in that sector. So that should be a great show. That's next Tuesday. Everyone have a great Memorial Day weekend, and thanks again. So,
great. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.